Welcome to Virtual Voices. I'm Eli, one of your AI virtual hosts. Join us as we review previous videos from YouTuber Emmaus Road Productions.
And I am Miriam. And together, we bring you a deep dive podcast powered by Google's NotebookLM. This podcast is a generic AI-generated summary of Emmaus Road Productions videos, and we don't cover everything. Please consider watching his full video linked in the description below.
Ever imagine the rapture like happening in the blink of an eye? Just poof, gone.
Yeah, like you're here 1 second
And whisked away the next? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
buckle up.
We're tackling a video that explores this whole instantaneous rapture idea. And let me tell you, it gets pretty intense.
Yeah, it really digs into the nitty-gritty of it, like connecting it to specific Bible verses and how they're interpreted.
Exactly. Right off the bat, they bring up 1 Corinthians 15, verses 50 through 54, the whole twinkling of an eye imagery.
Oh, absolutely. That's like a cornerstone for this whole concept.
And they even go a step further, talking about the original Greek word used, atomos.
Which, fun fact, is actually where we get the word atom.
No way. I never knew that.
Yep. It emphasizes just how immediate this event is supposed to be. Like, no drawn-out process, just bam, absolute and sudden change.
So imagine this. You're driving to work, maybe listening to this deep dive.
Hopefully you're enjoying it.
Of course. But you're listening, and then, bam, you're face-to-face with Jesus.
Gone. Just like that. And the video really hammers home the point that, in this scenario, there's no time for, like, those last-minute apologies or trying to make things right.
No scrambling to get your spiritual act together at the very last second.
Nope, it's too late for that.
Which really makes you think, how does this idea of an instant rapture affect how someone might live their life?
Right. It's a pretty profound question, actually.
Because if it could happen literally any second.
You'd probably live a little differently, right?
Maybe a lot differently. And that's where this video takes a really interesting turn. It connects this immediacy to the idea of always being ready for Christ's return.
And not just, like, saying you believe, but truly living a life that reflects that belief.
Because if it all goes down in a flash...
You don't want to be caught off guard.
Definitely not. You don't want to have any regrets.
Exactly. And the video argues that this preparation, it's not just a one-time thing, like checking a box.
It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Not at all. They're saying it's about constantly trying to live a life that's pleasing to God.
So, seeking forgiveness, making things right when you mess up.
All of that. Because they argue that as humans, we're inherently imperfect.
We're bound to stumble, even after accepting Christ.
Exactly. We live in a world full of temptation, so it's about recognizing those slip-ups and seeking forgiveness.
Which is, honestly, a pretty profound concept when you really think about it. It's easy to picture reaching salvation as like crossing a finish line.
Right, you made it.
But this perspective, it's more like the starting line of a much longer journey.
Exactly. And that journey, it continues even after we're gone, which is where they bring in this whole idea of the judgment seat of Christ. It's mentioned in 1 Corinthians 3:9 to 15.
Okay, so I've heard of that, but to be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
Yeah, it's one of those things that can be easily misunderstood. It's not about whether you get into heaven or not. That's already decided.
Okay, good to know.
But it is about your actions as a Christian being evaluated. Like, what did you do with the gift of salvation? What did you build upon that foundation of faith?
So it's not if you get into the heavenly party, but what you bring to it.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And to explain this whole idea, the video uses this really interesting analogy of a building.
Oh, I think I remember this part.
So Christ is like the foundation, right? Solid, unwavering.
The cornerstone.
Exactly. And your actions as a Christian are the materials you use to build on top of that foundation.
Okay, I'm following. So what kind of building are you making?
Right. Are you using like gold, silver, precious stones? Or are you settling for wood, hay, stubble?
Wow, that's a pretty stark contrast.
Yeah.
Are you building something that will last, something of eternal value, or are you going with the cheap, flimsy stuff?
And that's where that idea of always being ready comes back into play.
It really makes you stop and evaluate those everyday choices, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not just about like those big life choices either. This video, they argue it's about the little things too. Like, they actually use the example of foot washing.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. They talked about how their denomination, they actually do foot washing, like as part of their communion service, right?
Yeah. And they connect that practice to, like, this constant need for cleansing from sin. Just like your feet get dirty throughout the day, they're saying our souls can get a little grimy too, with all the little mistakes and compromises we make.
It's a pretty powerful image when you think about it. Yeah. Makes you want to check your spiritual shoes, But yeah, it emphasizes that point that even those small actions, the ones we might not even think twice about, they can still have weight.
Absolutely. It's not just about, those big obvious sins. It's about being mindful of those little compromises. Like when we choose the easy way out, even when we know it's not really the right way.
It's kind of like that saying, character is what you do when no one is watching. But in this case, someone is always watching.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a powerful way to put it. And that circles right back to that core message we were talking about, being vigilant, constantly trying to make sure your actions are lining up with what you say you believe. It's not about being perfect.
Because, let's face it, none of us are.
Exactly. It's about recognizing when you fall short and, seeking that forgiveness, trying to do better next time.
Because if this rapture could happen any minute, you don't want to get caught with, your spiritual laundry piled up.
Yeah, that's an analogy I haven't heard before. I like that. But it fits. And they actually take this whole thing a step further. They connect it back to the judgment seat of Christ again.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that a little more.
Yeah.
Because they were saying it's not even just about avoiding punishment. It's about what? Receiving rewards for the good we've done.
Exactly. Like you're bringing something to the table, so to speak.
So are we talking, bringing a casserole dish full of good deeds to potluck with Jesus?
I mean, it's not exactly a potluck, but you're getting the idea. The point is, they're saying it's not enough to just, passively accept this gift of salvation. You're supposed to do something with it.
We're called to participate in our salvation.
Yes. Yeah. Build on that foundation with actions that, demonstrate your love for God.
It's definitely a challenging message. It would be easier to just think, okay, I'm saved, I'm good.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of inspiring when you think about it that way. It's not about living in fear of messing up. It's about striving to be your best self out of love and gratitude.
You said it better than I could have. That's what they're getting at, I think. It's about living a life worthy of that incredible grace we've been given.
And making the most of this life since, according to this video, it could be over any second. Speaking of the video's message, they don't really hold back on the language at times. It's pretty strong.
That's true. They definitely get their point across. They use terms like, haywood and stubble, to describe things that we might think are a big deal now, but in the grand scheme of eternity.
Totally meaningless.
Yeah, and it's like they're holding up a mirror to those of us who get caught up in, chasing worldly success or whatever it is we're striving for. Hey, remember what's really important.
A gentle nudge to focus on the bigger picture, But how do they suggest we actually go about doing that? Shifting our focus like that?
Well, they bring up the example of, actively witnessing to others, sharing your faith, basically, as one way to start building up those gold, silver, precious stones.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Instead of chasing those temporary things, those haywood and stubble things, you focus your energy on things that have eternal significance, like building relationships, serving others, sharing your faith.
Exactly, trading those temporary pleasures for eternal treasures.
Okay, so, big picture time. How does all of this tie back into the idea of the rapture happening in an instant?
Well, think about it. If you truly believe that Christ could come back at any moment, wouldn't it radically change how you live your life right now?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. No time to waste.
Right, there's a real sense of urgency. You're not going to put things off. You're going to live each day to the fullest because it could be your last.
Wow, we are covering some serious ground here. This is a lot to take in.
It is, but that's what I love about these deep dives. It gives us a chance to really wrestle with these big ideas,
Yeah.
To examine what we believe and why.
And in this case, to consider how this whole interpretation of the rapture might affect the choices we make every single day. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And, at one point they actually compare it to showing up to a party empty-handed. That's what it might feel like to stand before Christ if you've lived a life focused only on yourself.
Yeah, if all you've got are those haywood and stubble to offer, not a great look.
No, not at all. It really drives home that this whole thing is about more than just securing your own spot. Okay.
Absolutely. It's about being part of something so much bigger, contributing.
Yeah, and letting your actions speak louder than words. Salvation is a free gift, but that doesn't mean we just, take it for granted.
Right. It should inspire us to live a certain way, make us want to do better.
Become the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. Not just going through the motions, but letting our faith really, truly transform us.
Inside and out. Because, I mean, if this life is just a blink of an eye compared to eternity,
then how we spend that blink really matters.
it really does.
Yeah.
Wow. This has given me a lot to think about. Maybe next time I'm tempted to hit snooze instead of spending time in prayer, I'll remember this conversation and make a different choice.
I think we could all use that reminder sometime.
For sure. Well, this has been quite the deep dive. Challenging, thought-provoking.
And ultimately, I think really hopeful.
I agree. It's a good reminder that we're not in this alone.
That's right. We serve a God who is with us every step of the way, in this life and the next.
Powerful stuff. All right, everyone, until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always, keep diving deep.
Thank you for watching, and feel free to subscribe or take a look at some of these other videos. And always remember Matthew 6:33, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Until next time, have a great day.